Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. Well, as I'm recording this, I just got back yesterday from the National Farm Machinery Show at Louisville, Kentucky. And that show is arguably the biggest show in the country for unveiling new technology and new products to both farmers and weekend farmers. And I kind of want to be the eyes and ears of my audience when I go to that show and see what's new that might affect you. And of course, my main audience is small tractor owners, compact and mid-range tractor owners. And I'm going to go over what I saw at the show this year to kind of let you know in case you weren't able to go. And of course, Louisville is where most of the major manufacturers unveil their new products to the public for the first time. And I'm going to just kind of go in the order I went through the show. I started out at AGCO's booth, Massey Ferguson. Massey's got some new small tractors. They have a 25 horsepower tractor that they're going to offer with or without a cab now, which is new to their line. They've got several new models and they're changing their numbers. They'll have a number, a letter, and then another number. First number denotes the frame size, what size the frame is. The second letter will indicate whether it's a deluxe model or an economy model, and the last number is horsepower. So that makes it a lot simpler for you to understand their models, and anytime a manufacturer can make that a little simpler, I'm all in favor of it. They also unveiled a square baler, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I went from Massey's booth to New Holland's booth, and the ad agency for New Holland had set me up an interview with one of their guys to talk about their mid-range tractors, and they've unveiled a Power Star, and what I looked at was, in my mind, a little bit bigger than a mid-range. This is the tractor I looked at. It's 120 horsepower, which in my mind is a little bit above the mid-range, but anyway, they've come out with a new loader and a new hood design that makes it a little bit easier to see what you're doing out front, a curved boom loader, which is nice. But as far as offering anything in the smaller tractors, they, nor John Deere, nor Case had really anything. And it was kind of funny to me, the ag economy right now is in pretty rough shape. A lot of the sales of bigger tractors are way down from where they were, and yet the big three that participate in the ag market, New Holland, Case, and Deere, none of them had anything for the small tractor owner. You know, in my mind, if the big tractors aren't selling, let's emphasize small tractors and sell to those people. And there were, in all three of those manufacturers' booths, there were only 3 small tractors total. And they were all 3 in the John Deere booth. They had 3 models that they've had in their line for a while, nothing new. But New Holland and Case, neither one had a compact tractor or what I call a mid-range tractor in their booth. So they're really targeting the big stuff and trying to sell that. While I was at the New Holland booth, I looked across the way and there's a bigger TYM booth, and I noticed that what used to occupy the space across from them was a Manitou Gale booth. Of course, they're all owned by the same people. And they pulled out of the show, and that's one thing I noticed about the show. There's some of the manufacturers are pulling out of these big national shows and using that money for other marketing purposes. It costs a lot of money for a manufacturer to load up all that equipment, take it to the show, clean it up, get it ready, display it, and then tear it down and take it away and then man the booth and all that. That costs a tremendous amount of money. And I'm sure some of the major manufacturers are looking at these big shows and thinking, if I spent that money probably in my online efforts, I might hit more eyeballs than if I go to the show. So Manitou and Gale, who do sell to farmers, but probably have, that's not the biggest part of their audience, is pulled out of the show and they're gone. And TYM had taken over that space across from New Holland. And so while I was in the New Holland booth, I looked across the way, and TYM is getting ready to unveil 3 brand new tractors. And they've got them covered with sheets, which was kind of cool, kind of built the suspense. And they were unveiling those at 11 o'clock on the first morning. And so I stayed around and waited for that. And when they pulled the sheets back, what we saw was a 25 horsepower cab tractor. They've come with their first 25 horse cab tractor. And then 2, what I would call somewhat between the compact and mid-range size tractors that were actually tractors that were in the Branson line. TYM bought Branson a few years ago, and they're merging the lines together. And these tractors came from the Branson line, And they're kind of a little higher spec tractor. Most of the TYM models that you see are kind of a basic tractor, not a lot of bells and whistles. This tractor that they unveiled has got a little bit more technology on it, a little more electronics on it, and designed to compete with the premium models that the other manufacturers are selling. But they had both a cab and a non-cab version in that size. Well, Kubota, as always, had a nice display of small tractors, including this new model, an MX 4900. And I have a little trouble keeping track of all of Kubota's models, but this one is the bottom end now of the MX series. I think the previous MXs only went down to about 58 horsepower. This MX is 50 horsepower. So if you want a smaller version of the MX, it's now available. So from there I went to LS. LS changed colors last year, which was a big deal, but they didn't have any new models there, but they were all consistent color and the new blue, which looks nice. I went from there to Mahindra. Mahindra unveiled a bunch of new tractors in their smaller end last year, and they were on display at the show. I don't think they got those out too much in widespread distribution last year, but they tell me those tractors are now in widespread distribution, and they're available at your local dealer now in the small range. Went from there to the Kioti booth, and Kioti had, like a couple of other suppliers, a 25 horsepower cab tractor. And it seemed like where everybody is putting their money now is developing that smaller cab tractor. And they also had a prototype of their bigger tractor line, a little bit big for my audience. And that was pretty much it on the tractor end. Bad Boy has got a tractor line, but they're made by TYM, and I think anything in the Bad Boy line that comes is going to be seen in the TYM line first, and then migrate to the Bad Boy line. Didn't see anything with Bad Boy that was different. So anyway, that's kind of what I saw. To be honest with you, nothing that'll just change your life if you're a small tractor owner, but some upgrades and features. I kind of feel like the manufacturers are getting more ergonomic as a group all the time and making the tractors more comfortable. They're improving the seating and things like that, but nothing major. Now, what was different was the balers that I saw. And AGCO, Massey Ferguson, Heston unveiled a square baler that makes two bales at once. It's more closer in what it is to their big square balers that make the big bales that get trucked down the highway. But what it is a small square baler. The size of the bale is small, and it can take a lot of windrow, and it makes two bales at once, side by side, going down the chamber. And a separate knotting system for each one. You can dial in the size and the thickness and the weight of the bale, and the size and number of flakes, which is kind of interesting. And you may ask, where does this apply? Who's going to be buying a baler that makes two bales at once? Well, this is not for those of us that have maybe baled with an 8-in Ford and a small square baler, and now we want a little bit more capacity. This is for a commercial hay producer. And most of us are not commercial hay producers, but if you own livestock, maybe you buy hay, and this might be something for the person that you buy hay from. Because labor is a big issue, and getting hay baled in a timely manner is an issue. So what you can do with this new square baler is to take the place of two tractors and two balers, get about the same amount of work done with one baler, picking up a bigger windrow and spitting out two bales at once. And that was Heston that's designed that. That'll be made in Heston, Kansas, at their plant there. Pretty high-tech baler. Now, the reason that if you're baling with an 8-in Ford and you want a little more capacity, say you got an old Heston inline baler and you want to move to something bigger, this actually is not for you. It takes 120 horsepower to pull, so you got to have a pretty good tractor in front of it. It'll bale a lot of hay in an hour, but the list price on it's around $170,000. So it's not for somebody that bales hay on the side, it's for the commercial hay producer. And there's certain parts of the country where they'll sell a few of these. And I heard while I was on their booth that there was a similar baler in the Deere booth, and I went over there and looked at that. And I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I'd never seen a baler that made two bales at once, but there were two of them at the show. And the Deere was made by a company in New Mexico, I think, and maybe in partnership with Deere, or maybe Deere's thinking about offering it through their line, but it didn't say John Deere on it, even though it was Deere colors. It had a John Deere toolbox with the Deere logo on the toolbox, but nowhere on the baler did it say John Deere. But both of those balers had a lot of people looking at them, so it's obvious that maybe that's where the market is headed for the commercial hay producer, but for the average person that watches my channel, not much there. But that was probably the most innovative thing I saw. I always see some things at this show that if I had all the money in the world, I'd own one. At least be nice to own one for a week or two and get some projects done. But when you make free videos for a living, that's probably not in the works. Saw a lot of cool looking big tractors. Saw a black Massey Ferguson, which was kind of interesting. And I saw some things, I'm like, what does this even do? This is a windrow merger. Puts a bunch of windrows together. Also at the Louisville show, I saw Tim, a fellow YouTuber, and Ed from My Cluttered Garage. And Ed interviewed me, and he's done that a couple of times, and I want to thank him and put in a plug for his YouTube channel. If you've not checked out My Cluttered Garage, make sure you do. He was at the show taking a lot of video, and I'm sure he's got more coverage on it than I do. But My Cluttered Garage is a good place to check out some tractor videos. Well, I appreciate you watching my videos, and I would be honored if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking the mic face icon. And make sure you check the bell so you get notified when I post future videos. Here's a link to my website and the Tractor Fund Store with cool things for sale for the tractor owner. It helps support this channel. And here's another couple of videos you might want to watch. Thanks for watching.